Don't come. You'll just embarrass us. I stared at my phone, hands shaking. My sister's wedding, and I wasn't invited? Then another message came, and it made everything worse. My name is Danielle Harper, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a freelance writer. Nothing flashy, nothing my family ever respected. Growing up, my younger sister was always the one they praised. Perfect grades, perfect looks, perfect life. I was the quiet one, always told to try harder, to be more like her, to stop being so difficult. I moved out early, built my life on my own terms, and kept my distance from the constant comparisons that followed every family dinner and holiday phone call. Money was tight sometimes, but I valued my independence more than anyone's approval. My family saw me as unstable, unsuccessful, someone who didn't quite fit into their polished, curated image of what a family should look like. I wasn't rich, I wasn't glamorous, but I had something they never thought to look for, and they were about to regret underestimating me. If you've ever felt like your own family doesn't see your worth, hit that subscribe button. I want to hear your story too, so drop it in the comments below. Sometimes the people closest to us hurt us the most, and you deserve a space where that truth is understood. Click hype if you've ever been underestimated. Let's go. It started with a text. No lead up, no phone call, no attempt at kindness. Just a message from my sister, short and blunt, like she'd been rehearsing it. Don't come to the wedding. It's not your scene. I read it twice, then a third time. I sat there in my apartment, the smell of my morning coffee going cold on the desk beside me, trying to make sense of those 11 words. My scene. Like her wedding was some exclusive event I wasn't dressed well enough to attend, like I was a stranger and not her sister. Before I could even process that, my mother called. I answered because some part of me still believed she'd say it was a misunderstanding. She didn't. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. She said I might ruin the vibe with my lifestyle. I asked her what that meant. She didn't answer directly. She never does. I'm your daughter, I said quietly. I'm her sister. She paused, then replied with something I will never forget. Then act like someone we're proud of. The line went quiet. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just sat there, holding the phone, feeling something inside me go very still. I typed a response in the family group chat. I kept it calm. I said I deserved to be there and that I hoped they'd reconsider. Nobody replied. The chat went completely silent, like my message had vanished into nothing. Then a cousin messaged me privately. She told me the family had already told guests I couldn't afford to come. They'd given me an excuse before I even knew I needed one. And then came the final blow. My sister posted a wedding countdown on social media. The caption read, "Surrounded by the people who matter most." She had erased me publicly, deliberately, and she wanted me to see it. I realized then that this wasn't impulsive. It was planned. I had been quietly edited out of the story my family was telling the world. The days that followed each brought a new cut. I found out through a mutual friend that my sister had been telling wedding guests I cut ties with the family out of jealousy, that I couldn't handle her success, that I chose to stay away. Every version of events put the fault. I typed a response in the family group chat. I kept it calm. I said I deserved to be there and that I hoped they'd reconsider. Nobody replied. The chat went completely silent, like my message had vanished into nothing. Then a cousin messaged me privately. She told me the family had already told guests I couldn't afford to come. They'd given me an excuse before I even knew I needed one. And then came the final blow. My sister posted a wedding countdown on social media. The caption read, "Surrounded by the people who matter most." She had erased me publicly, deliberately, and she wanted me to see it. I realized then that this wasn't impulsive. It was planned. I had been quietly edited out of the story my family was telling the world. The days that followed each brought a new cut. I found out through a mutual friend that my sister had been telling wedding guests I cut ties with the family out of jealousy, that I couldn't handle her success, that I chose to stay away. Every version of events put the fault on me, and none of them were true. My father, who had always stayed neutral in conflicts, ignored every call I made. Then one afternoon, he sent a single text: "Respect your sister's wishes." That was it. No explanation, no acknowledgement of what I was feeling, just 5 words and silence. Then my aunt blocked me without warning. A cousin told me she said I was causing drama. I hadn't posted anything publicly. I hadn't called anyone names. I had simply asked to be included in my sister's wedding. That was apparently drama enough. I watched the preparation photos roll in, my mother laughing, my sister glowing in her dress fittings, my father looking proud, everyone smiling in a way they never seemed to smile when I was in the room. And something about that hit differently than I expected. It wasn't just the present hurt, it was the recognition of every smaller moment that had led here. The family trips I wasn't told about until after, the holidays where my achievements were glossed over while hers were celebrated for hours, the way my career was treated like a phase, a mistake, something I'd eventually grow out of. This wedding wasn't the beginning of my exclusion. It was just the first time it was so visible, so public, so intentional. I stopped reaching out. Not dramatically, not with a speech or an ultimatum. I just went quiet. I pulled back and I started watching instead of reacting. When one more cousin texted to ask if I was okay, I replied with something I meant completely. "You know what? I won't come. Don't worry about me." They took that as a victory. I could tell by how quickly the family moved on. They assumed they had handled the problem, managed the situation, put me back in my place. They celebrated their perfect wedding weekend with the confidence of people who believed the story they had constructed about me was the only story that existed. What they didn't know was that I had been building something quietly for years. Long before this wedding, long before that text, I had been writing. Not under my real name, under a pen name, on a blog I had built from nothing, one honest post at a time. The blog was about family dynamics, generational patterns, emotional neglect, the specific pain of being the one your family decided didn't belong. I had never set out to be famous. I just needed somewhere to put the truth. But it found an audience anyway. Millions of readers, posts that went viral without my trying, people sharing my words in family group chats, in therapy sessions, in conversations with friends who finally felt understood. My family, ironically, had often mocked people who quote-unquote complained online. They had made jokes about people airing their grievances in public, calling it embarrassing, calling it weakness. They had no idea it was me, no idea those viral posts about difficult mothers and invisible daughters and families that curate their image at the expense of their most honest members were written by the daughter they were busy erasing. A major media outlet had reached out months earlier. They wanted a feature, a collaboration, a real face behind the words. I had hesitated. I was careful with my privacy. But something shifted in me the morning I got that text from my sister. For the first time, I thought, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. I started preparing something bigger than anything I had written before, something public. Megan was the first person I called. We had been friends since childhood, and she was one of the few people in my life who had always seen me clearly, not the version my family described. Me. She answered on the second ring, and I told her everything. She went quiet for a moment, and then she said exactly what I needed to hear. They didn't just exclude you, they erased you. She was furious, in the quiet, steady way that matters more than loud anger. She didn't tell me to let it go. She didn't tell me to keep the peace. She told me to stop staying silent. Megan had kept some things over the years, screenshots of conversations she thought might matter someday, messages I had forwarded to her when things got particularly bad. We spent an evening organizing everything carefully, timelines, texts, patterns, the kind of documentation that turns a personal story into an undeniable record. Meanwhile, my family posted wedding highlight after wedding highlight, speeches, first dances, group photos in golden evening light. They praised themselves in the captions. They tagged each other. They performed their happiness loudly and publicly. And every post felt like a door being slammed in my face. I watched it all without responding. Not once did I comment. Not once did I react. I was done reacting. Megan connected me with a journalist she trusted, someone who wrote about real stories behind the families that looked perfect from the outside. We spoke twice. She understood immediately what I was describing because she had heard versions of it before. The tension in those days was something I felt in my chest, like pressure. My family was celebrating their image, and I was quietly preparing to tell the truth about what was underneath it. 2 weeks after the wedding, I published the post. I had rewritten it 4 times. I wanted it to be honest without being cruel, clear without being vague. The title was simple, something about being uninvited from your own family's most important day. I included screenshots, carefully edited to protect identities at first. I wrote the story the way I had always written, directly, personally, without exaggeration, because the truth was already enough. The response was immediate. Within hours, the comments were flooding in. Thousands of people saying they had lived some version of this, sharing their own stories of exclusion, of being the sibling who was never quite right, of families that built beautiful public images on private cruelty. The post was shared across platforms. It was reposted, quoted, discussed. By the second day, it was everywhere. Then I published the follow-up. This one included more detail, not names, but enough context that anyone who had followed my sister's very public, very documented wedding posts could connect the dots. Readers did it within hours. The comments shifted. People began tagging my sister's posts. Journalists started picking up the story. It moved from personal blog to social media conversation to news coverage faster than I had expected. My phone started buzzing with numbers I recognized. My family was panicking. I could feel it without even reading the messages. My sister texted first, "Take it down, you're ruining everything." I looked at that message for a long time. Then I typed back 4 words, "No, I'm telling the truth." The calls came after that, voicemails I didn't return. My mother's number appeared over and over. When I finally picked up, her voice was different. The calmness was gone. "Why would you do this to us?" she asked. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said what had been true for a long time. "You did it first. I just stopped staying quiet." I didn't respond to any further attempts to control what I had said or how I had said it. My family tried to post their own version of events online. It didn't land the way they hoped. The public had already read my words and recognized something true in them. My family's reputation took the kind of hit that takes a long time to recover from, if it recovers at all. Not because I wanted to destroy them, but because they had built their image on a story that excluded the truth, and the truth had finally arrived. The media feature launched shortly after, my real name attached to my work for the first time. My platform grew in ways I hadn't imagined. Messages came from people all over the world, thanking me for writing what they had never been able to say out loud. I felt lighter, not because anything dramatic had been won, not because of revenge, because I had finally spoken, because my voice had finally taken up the space it always deserved. I chose peace over reconciliation. That might change someday, but for now, I needed the distance. I needed to exist outside of their version of me. They wanted a perfect story without me in it, I thought, standing at my window one evening, the city quiet around me. The truth doesn't stay hidden forever. If you've ever been excluded or made to feel like you don't belong in your own family, you are not alone. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe to be a part of a community that understands this pain. Click hype to help this story reach someone else who needs it today. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments below. Every hype you give this video helps someone else feel a little less invisible. Thank you for being here and for listening.